Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about mindfulness. And mindfulness, for those of you that aren't aware, is a practice that focuses on the distressing emotions, the overwhelming feelings and thoughts that are internal and helps to shift those to the external. Now, those of us experiencing mental illness within our lives, whether that be borderline personality disorder, OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, the list goes on and on, but many of us that are struggling with these mental illnesses within our lives will experience the extreme emotions that come with these mental illnesses, the overwhelming impulses to act and the racing thoughts and the symptoms, both physical and mental. And mindfulness is a practice that really helps to target these thoughts and feelings and help get yourself a focus, to focus your attention and to bring those negative thoughts out of your mind and to focus on something specific, like your breathing, to bring you back to that present moment. Today, I'm going to talk about 8 tips that can help you to be more mindful in times where you're feeling under stress, when you're feeling the onset of anxiety or some other symptom of mental illness, or just when you feel that you want to practice mindfulness so that you're better equipped to deal with these situations. So, number 1. The first step to mindfulness is to breathe. And it sounds so obvious, but in our day-to-day lives, we're such busy human beings that we sometimes forget just to take long stomach breaths in and out. Our breathing, when we're panicked, if someone is struggling with panic disorder or anxiety, our breathing could become quite shallow, quite rapid, and we could even hyperventilate. And to fight this, we can break this up with circular breathing. We can do square breathing, which is basically if you draw a square, you want to breathe in, down the line, pause, up, breathe out, along, and then pause down, and just continue that square. Nice and simple. This can also be called circular breathing. It has many names, but it really is effective. Another way that people who are quite visual find it's easy to breathe during the breathing step of mindfulness is to imagine that you're filling a balloon with your breath. So when you're breathing in, you're filling the balloon and your abdomen's rising, and then as you're breathing out, the balloon deflates and your abdomen lowers again, and so you just continue that. One thing I should say is some people that I've worked with and people that I know that I've spoken about this in the past can find this repetitiveness to be a bit stressful at first, particularly people that I've worked with and I've known with borderline personality disorder. This has been a practice to gradually build up, and so maybe not try too much right away. Try and gradually build this into your life and see how this first step works for you. The second step to mindfulness is to observe. And this might sound very easy again, but this simply means looking at things from a distance. So you might be quite close to a situation that's causing you a lot of anxiety, depression, stress, that's causing maybe bipolar manic episodes, it's quite triggering for you. And in this case, you just want to take that step back from the situation and you want to observe it from a wider perspective, because that's going to help you to lower those distressing emotions that are associated with what you are seeing in your own perspective, because you're seeing it in a more grounded reality. You're just seeing it as it really is. So just trying to ground those thoughts and trying to look at that situation, whether it be an interpersonal relationship, something that's happened, if it's PTSD, if something is giving you a flashback, just to remember where you are, what the situation is in the wider perspective. So The third thing that we can do is just to focus on this moment right here. And a good visualization for this is just a drop of water. Once it's gone, but the drop of water itself is that one moment. And again, with us being very busy human beings, we're often finding ourselves on autopilot, and we seldom have the opportunity just to experience a moment for what it is. And this is such a shame, really, in modern society, that we don't just get to experience moments for what they are. And this particular step of mindfulness is really beneficial because it doesn't allow us to worry about events in the past. It doesn't allow us to try and look into the future and to have anxieties and forward planning and overanalyzing there. We're just focusing on the here and now and trying to tolerate the situation that we're currently in. It may be fine. You may be trying to think, what is the scale of my anxiety right now? You may try and assess your current mood, and that's fine. We're all human, we all have emotions, but we're trying not to look into the past, and we're trying not to look into the future. We're just enjoying the present moment of things going on around you, and that's what we're basking in right there. So the next step is we're trying to stop ourselves from drifting. And this is something that could be as simple as daydreaming. So you could find yourself having quite pleasant daydreams or quite neutral daydreams. But often, and I've found this myself, your train of thought can take you to places that are quite negative, or we'll say unpleasant, that are quite almost hurtful because you're imagining situations that could be the worst possible scenario. I know that my generalized anxiety tends to run away with this, and that can cause me to become quite frozen, to not want to act in certain ways. And so what we really want to do is we want to pull back those thoughts that have drifted, and we want to try and identify when we're drifting again. When you sense that you're beginning to do that, you just want to pull yourself back to your current line of thought and say, that's not relevant. We're not drifting off to that thought. We're going to stay in the place that we're in, and that's what we're going to focus on right now. So focus is really important to mindfulness. Focus is important for all aspects of a person. There are triggers everywhere in society, regardless of what mental illness it is you deal with or what degree of mental health you experience within your life. Someone with pain-based anxiety, I know a friend of mine who has chronic pain. A lot of her anxiety comes from physical stimuli, sensations in her body, and that makes her very anxious for how bad that might get, how bad that it is, how bad that it has been. So she gets a lot of pain-based anxiety. Someone who has social anxiety may cause themselves to be focusing on what people are saying, what people's body language is, for example. Someone with post-traumatic stress disorder, certain sounds, certain smells, certain images, certain places may cause them to have flashbacks, and that might be what they focus in on. The focus side of mindfulness allows you to identify when that is happening. Just like the last step, you're focusing and identifying what it is that you're focusing on that is unhelpful for you, and redirecting your focus towards something else. Maybe you're breathing, maybe you have a friend that you can talk to, a place that you can go. You're taking your focus somewhere else. Maybe you go for a walk, you get some fresh air. Maybe you take yourself to a different room of the flat, you just change up your scene a little bit, but you're just focusing on something a little bit different there. So the next step of mindfulness is fact or opinion. So I like this one. Basically, if you're worried about one specific circumstance, think to yourself, the things that you're worried about, are they based in fact or are they based in what your opinion is? So say you'd had a run-in with a friend and they hadn't been quite as attentive as they normally had, and your mind is racing, you're thinking, have I offended them? What's happening here? Something going on in her life? Just try and focus and break down what it is that you're dealing with to what has actually taken place. So your friend has walked by without really giving you her usual level of chat or their level usual of chat, and that's all that's happened. You don't know the ins and outs of it, and you may be able to find out later, but for now, that's all we know. So let's not hypothesize and give yourself more to worry about. Try and contain what's in your mind to the fact and separate the opinion from that, and not let that cloud your judgments over things, because that will just cause you, like I say, unnecessary worry. The next thing is the wise mind. I quite like this intervention because this stage of mindfulness is sometimes acted out as an owl, which, as you know, is my spirit animal. Don't know if you can see that. But I love owls, as is shown by my channel, Owly Ellie. And the wise mind is shown as an owl because it is an amalgamation, a combination of your emotional mind and your rational mind. The mind that is thinking more reasonably and more objectively, but only objectively, without any emotional response. So your emotional response to a situation may be to think that this has disturbed you, something that has happened, that this has really shocked you. It's quite an emotional response, it's quite an emotional line of thought when you're thinking about that thing in that way, in a way where you're like, this was really upsetting for me, I'm really angry about this. And your rational response is more the advice you would give your friend about that scenario. It's more objective, it's looking at things from other perspectives and saying, well, you know, that person was probably thinking this, or let's talk to them about that later, we can deal with that at a different time. Trying to combine those two, because it's not bad to have feelings, but just not letting those rule your judgment completely. Not acting impulsively because of those emotions, and letting your rational thoughts combine with those. And that is what combines to make the wise mind, which is sometimes acted out as an owl in occupational therapy, when you have the person that is the emotional response, the person that is the rational mind, and then the owl that is the amalgamation of the two, which I quite like. The last thing is positive thinking, or keep calm and carry on, as we call it here in the UK. So this actually started back in World War II, when a civil servant that wanted to remain anonymous came up with a poster slogan, keep calm and carry on, to spur on British soldiers. And now that it's copyright free and everything, everyone uses this, and it's become quite a reassuring driving force. And that is the point of this final stage of mindfulness, is that you have a positive mantra that you can repeat to yourself, whether it be keep calm and carry on, which is quite positive, quite no nonsense and quite reassuring. One of my personal favourites is just keep swimming from Finding Nemo. I really enjoyed that one, just telling myself that on a daily basis, that you're going to come out the other side of something, and just to keep on moving along. So those are my 8 tips for mindfulness, and based in things that I've done on mindfulness training courses, and based in mindfulness that I've experienced myself, I find those to be my top tips. But please feel free to share with me your own. There's a lot of great resources for mindfulness out there as well. I've spoken before about the Feel Good app. It's particularly good for guided mindfulness, for audio tracks. A lot of people really prefer to have someone guide them through their mindfulness, and there's plenty of resources out there for this. There's also a lot of literature on mindfulness. I'll link some below. Thich Nhat Hanh was a Vietnamese monk who was a Zen master and spoke very openly about mindfulness, and has a lot of literature, such as The Miracle of Mindfulness, which is a really great book that I read a while ago, and it's really worth a read. I think it's on Audible. It's definitely an audiobook that exists somewhere. But I'll link all the resources below, and I hope you've enjoyed my video on mindfulness, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Thanks for all the support of the videos. Bye!